Hello friends. In this video we're going to talk about how to dramatically increase your meditation progress. So to begin with, we're going to get the most obvious answer out of the way, which is simply don't concern yourself with progress on the path. And it's such a cliche piece of advice. Wanting practice to improve or wanting something out of the spiritual path is the fastest way to not get it. And it's true. That one reorientation around practice, around meditation, in even more broadly, the spiritual path will help things speed up immediately. Is learning how to cultivate this mind of total acceptance no matter what is happening. But that's pretty generic advice, and I want to give more than just that in this video. But before we move on, one thing I should mention around this advice, related. One of my teachers would often give this metaphor of an earthquake. Now, I'm not an expert in earthquakes, but from what I understand, there are tectonic plates underneath the earth, and very slowly those plates shift. And eventually, they shift in such a way that the whole earth shakes. That same kind of mechanism where it doesn't seem like much is going on in our mind. The earth is very still. It doesn't seem like much is happening on the surface. But actually, within the depths of mind, within the depths of body, energy centers, energy body, even astrally, there are changes happening. There are these subtle tectonic plate-like shifts occurring below the level of conscious awareness, below what we may have access to through our experience. And then out of nowhere, dramatic shifts and watershed moments can take place along the path. And for myself, having this as a frame was very helpful for adopting this very generic advice of just accept the way things are. Don't try to get anything out of the practice. It was learning how to trust that a lot is actually happening even below my level of conscious awareness. And I will say that as you deepen your practice of meditation, the sensitivity and subtlety of our minds begins to open up. And we actually do cultivate deeper levels of sensitivity to observing the very, very subtle domains, activities, expressions of mind that normally are well below the threshold of conscious awareness. And this is achieved through accessing samadhi, deep states of concentration. So not only is the case that a lot is happening under the surface, but eventually our progress on the path begins to reveal that very subtle level of activity, and we start to observe it directly. Oh, these tectonic plates within the mind actually are shifting. And so that's pretty cool. But I still want to give more advice than just accept your progress. And the number one piece of advice that I could give to absolutely dramatically accelerate your meditation progress is to go on meditation retreats. And this is just non-negotiable. If you want to progress with your practice, having dedicated amounts of time, at least a week or more of retreat time, is necessary. There is an argument for what I call micro retreats, which is just anything less than a week, but still in a retreat kind of container. There's absolutely an argument to be made for doing these kinds of micro retreats. They're great. They'll also greatly enhance your meditation progress, but having a dedicated week or longer to just really throw yourself into the practice, nothing else is just non-negotiable on the path. You will dramatically accelerate your progress This is the one thing that it's like rocket fuel for the path. Typically, we want to aim for at least once per year going on some kind of week-long residential or online meditation retreat, where it's literally just all day long, all we're focused on is meditation. If you're already going on meditation retreats, if you can go on more, do that. They are so helpful in so many ways. However, I will say it can be dangerous to force yourself to go on retreats when you're not ready. So whenever we do decide to go on a meditation retreat, it's very important that we are actually checking in with where we are at, both just in terms of our life, the logistics of our life, whether this is something in the cards given the relationships that we have in our life and the work that we're engaged in, and also if spiritually it's what's being asked for. So really learning how to check in with ourselves and knowing when the right time to sign up for a retreat is very important. And it's also the case that if you find a retreat and there's a kind of intuitive pull to make it happen, but you don't know how to create the life logistics, circumstances to facilitate going on that retreat, just like obviously, do what you want, but there's a way in which it works out. There's a way in which reality starts to conspire in your favor, on your behalf, and arrange your life to make it work. And so I would recommend immediately after this video going and finding a retreat and signing up for it if you aren't signed up for one already. And immediately after your last retreat, just the day you get out, start trying to find another retreat and sign up immediately so you don't even have to think about it. Many of these meditation centers post their schedules even into the next year or later on in the year. So sign up immediately. Retreats will absolutely change your life. Another major way to accelerate your progress on the path is through learning how to constantly meditate, whether you are formally seated on the cushion or whether you're just living life. I think most people, beginners and advanced practitioners, understand that meditation is something that we want to totally integrate into the totality of our lives. That this separation between living life and formal practice needs to dissolve. This isn't new. This is pretty standard meditation advice, but it's easily missed just how significant of an impact this has. When we start to directly experience the dissolution of the duality between formal meditation and meditation throughout daily life, the practice catches fire in a way that's inexplicable, almost to the point where it can feel like we no longer need to formally practice. When you really catch fire in this way and all moments begin to be observed as an opportunity to practice, and we start having sufficient depth even while living out daily life, when the momentum is just really going, it can actually feel like we don't need to practice anymore. And of course, I would not recommend you quit formal daily practice. I would recommend that you keep going with it. But I share this just to say that that's how powerful of an impact this can have. I've certainly had that seductive pull around like, oh, do I need to keep meditating? Maybe I don't. Maybe I could just get away with skipping this day. Don't listen to that mind. There obviously can be times where it might make sense to skip meditation for whatever reason for a day. If you're truly pressed for time and there's major life circumstances, emergencies coming up, but mostly we need to be practicing daily, 99.9% of the time, formally. And it is the case that we reach a point where the practice catches so much momentum and fire that it's all meditation. And this needs to be an explicit goal. Now, in my own experience, the most practical and easiest way to do this, catching fire in this way, which again will dramatically increase your meditation progress, is by, one, just practicing more formally, just having more sitting periods, longer sitting periods, doing retreats, but just having a stronger formal daily practice helps integrate and bridge this gap between formal practice and living daily life. But also this strategy called microhits, where we take anywhere from a couple of seconds to a couple of minutes, peppered throughout the day, and do a microhit of meditation practice. So you just find an opportunity where you have a couple of seconds or a couple of minutes, and you rigorously apply some sort of formal meditation technique. Easy examples are, you're driving and you hit a red light, and then you just start doing noting practice or self-inquiry or open awareness, literally anything, it doesn't matter. But you start formally practicing just for a couple of seconds, waiting in line at the grocery store, walking up a staircase, cooking, being out in nature with the water, sitting with a tree, literally anywhere. You just learn how to drop into very deliberate, rigorous meditation instantly, right on a dime. You just jump into it. And you start peppering enough of these throughout the day, and you start to learn just how available it is to start practicing mindfulness meditation literally anywhere. And the third way to help bring this practice to life is through informal background practice. And this is just a skill that we learn how to cultivate and develop over time. But this is where we're just living life, and on autopilot, we're just in a meditative state. We're grounded, we're clear, we're centered, we're sensitive, we're paying attention. Even though we're not applying a formal technique, the practice, the mindfulness is just going on in the background. And it can be the case that, in fact, we intentionally do this. We intentionally drop in to an informal practice of meditation. And it can be the case that this spontaneously occurs for no reason. We just drop in. This process of informal meditation practice, increasing over time, is ultimately the thing that lights everything on fire and allows this practice to flourish. And so that's really what we're going for. And learning how to intentionally drop in informally, which is a bit of a contradiction, but I trust that we can figure it out. But learning how to intentionally drop in informally is both a strategy, and recognizing when it happens spontaneously is another way to cultivate it and allow it to increase over time. And finally, the last thing I'll say about increasing your meditation progress is a bit counterintuitive, and you have to really be careful with this one. The thing I'm about to say could absolutely backfire, could absolutely halt your meditation progress. But that is not practicing as much, actually laying off the gas. The whole path, the whole spiritual path is this very delicate balance of effort and surrender, right effort. And it can be the case that actually decreasing the amount of formal meditation that you're doing and giving the mind more spaciousness can be exactly the thing that the practice needs to help blow up, flourish, take fire. All very aggressive imagery, and I don't mean for it to be. But learning how to discern when should I push and when should I back off a bit is very important. My bias as a practitioner is that usually I'm biased towards pressing down harder on the gas pedal, and that can be helpful, and my sense actually is having a bias in that direction is safer than having a bias in another direction, but really it's your spiritual path, and ultimately you're the one responsible for its unfolding, and only you can know what is truly best for your practice. And so I just invite you into that inquiry around, am I pressing too hard? Or is this a time actually where I authentically desire to face more suffering, to push harder on the path? And accept that it's not going to be perfect. It's going to be a mess. The whole path is a mess. We're dealing with human suffering and the existential calamity of being born into a body, a separate self, realizing that it's all an illusion. And that's difficult. Realizing these deep existential truths along the spiritual path is quite difficult. And so just be kind to yourself. That's my invitation. Hope this video was helpful in some way. And if you need help deepening your meditation practice, which I assume you do if you're watching a video like this, I have a guide that you can check out where there's even more strategies that I give you to help deepen your practice. Check it out if you'd like help with your path and practice. And I will see you guys in the next video.